So I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, man. Merry Christmas to each and every one of y'all, including the Grinches out there. Merry Christmas to y'all as well, man. Enjoy. So the next video we're going to get into, man, is something happens to Earth every 200 million years. I'm starting to think we're constantly in some type of cycle. We're in, and we need to be aware and start paying attention to this stuff to know what could be coming up for us. All right, so we're gonna get into this video. If you're new, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Join the fam. Let's check it out.
Earthquakes of unprecedented magnitude will destroy our metropolises. New mountains will rise right in the middle of the skyscrapers, and the remains of the ravaged neighborhoods will be swallowed up by a mega glacier. But the dead silence won't last long. Soon, a comet will appear in the sky and turn the remnants of civilization into lava and ash. Our planet has cycles of catastrophic events that sometimes stretch for millions of years, and therefore, they're very difficult to notice. Each of these cycles could put humankind on the brink of extinction, but if they coincide, we're definitely screwed. One of the most destructive terrestrial cycles lies dormant right under our feet, but it's only a matter of time. In the late 16th century, a Flemish cartographer, Abraham Ortelius, created the first ever world atlas, and as his contemporaries believed, the last one. At that time, it was believed that Earth was only a few thousand years old and that it was and would remain entirely unchanged. However, in the description of the atlas, Ortelius noted that the coastlines of the continents looked as if the Americas were torn away from Europe and Africa by earthquakes and floods. Apparently, he imagined a tremendous biblical catastrophe like the Great Flood, but he couldn't even anticipate that something similar could happen again. Over 300 years later, a German geologist, Alfred Wegener, turned Ortelius' idea into the continental drift theory. The theory stated that sometime in the past, all of the world's land masses were joined together as the supercontinent Pangaea, but the very rotation of Earth split it into pieces that moved away from one another. And that drift, according to Wegener, was indeed accompanied by horrible catastrophes for all the planet's inhabitants. But Wegener's sensational theory also suggested that in the future, the same processes would bring the continents back together into Pangaea Proxima, and then the west coast of Africa would crash right into the east coast of the US. Big cities like New York will be swept away by fiery tectonic shock, and the place where you bought bagels in Times Square will become the site of a new mountain range not inferior to the Himalayas. And according to Wegener's initial calculations, this catastrophic cycle should be over in 2 million years. But the geologist proceeded from the fact that right now, the continents are moving at a speed of 2.5 meters per year, and that would mean the Statue of Liberty wouldn't have withstood the movement of the continental shelf and would have fallen just a century after its opening. Fortunately, satellite data showed that the continents are actually moving 100 times slower. That is 2.5 centimeters per year. At this rate, the continents will reunite into Pangaea Proxima not sooner than in over 200 million years. This means the total cycle from the disintegration of the old supercontinent into separate continents to the formation of a new supercontinent takes from 400 to 450 million years. Moreover, this cycle is controlled not by Earth's rotation as Wegener believed, but by convection currents of hot liquid magma in the planet's bowels. This incredible natural force lifts and pushes together massive lithospheric plates in Earth's crust. However, geologic evidence indicates that previously, the cycle of supercontinents could have been entirely different, from 800 million to 1 billion years. But scientists have no idea why or what could have accelerated it so much. On the scale of human history, deep tectonic forces occasionally break through the surface as volcanic eruptions, but explosive cataclysms like the destruction of Pompeii by Vesuvius usually don't recur, even after millions of years. Unlike
This planet feels just like sometimes just like a ticking time bomb. Like it's just ready to just at any given moment just devour us all. At any given moment, bro. Like, I know he's saying 200 million years away from this stuff, but I think about what could be happening in our lifetime, man. And though it may not be this, where it brings everything back together, but some of these volcanoes and different things make me think at any given moment, they could wreak havoc. Straight up, they could wreak havoc.
Usually don't recur, even after millions of years, unlike other devastating disasters that are just waiting for their time. In 1906, powerful tremors almost completely destroyed San Francisco, killing up to 3,000 people. Half a century later, the earthquake occurred again, but the city was lucky that the earthquake's epicenter was in the ocean. 30 years later, the disaster hit California again. It's just that the San Andreas Fault has one of the shortest earthquake cycles on the planet. In California, the Pacific Plate presses against the North American Plate so much that Earth has to relieve the enormous pressure once every 30 to 50 years. The latest of these cyclical earthquakes occurred in 2004, so Californians should get ready for potentially apocalyptic cataclysm in the next 20 years.
So what does that tell y'all? Anybody thinking of moving to California? I'd strongly consider this being in the back of my mind. Strongly consider that. And then anybody who's living there, I'd be looking to move away pretty soon. You know what I mean? Enjoy a few more years or whatever, and then get up out of there. Because I've always, even as a kid, I thought California eventually would break off from us and be out there just like a little island because of the earthquakes.
Ready for potentially apocalyptic cataclysm in the next 20 years. Faults around the world have similar cycles of seismic activity, but we have such a poor understanding of the processes in Earth's interior that we're still unable to accurately predict strong tremors, especially since sometimes earthquakes happen suddenly and don't fit into any cycles. Some scientists suggest that the electromagnetic influence of the sun can sometimes be so tremendous that it seems to charge Earth's mantle from the inside, and the release of charge causes sudden earthquakes. And that's only part of what our luminary can do. The sun has its own mysterious cycle of the apocalypse, and we're still trying to figure it out. In 1826, amateur German astronomer Heinrich Schwab decided by all means to find the mythical planet Vulcan between Mercury and the sun. He had to catch the moment when the celestial body would slip right in front of the solar disk. To avoid confusing it with a sunspot, Schwab began to sketch those spots almost every day, and he persevered for over 15 years. He didn't find the planet Vulcan, but he discovered that the number of sunspots grows and decreases approximately every 10 years. This discovery shocked the Swiss astronomer Rudolf Wolf. He immediately realized that variations in the solar activity must have global consequences for life on Earth. With maniacal persistence, Wolf collected all the observational data for centuries and estimated that solar cycles actually last about 11 years. But in the mid-19th century, neither Wolf nor other scientists could unravel the true significance of the spots. Therefore, they did not expect a catastrophic event exactly one cycle later. On the morning of September 1st, 1859, the British astronomer Richard Carrington pointed his telescope at the sun as usual. But this time, hitherto unseen giant spots appeared before his eyes, and each of those spots was many times larger than the Earth. Suddenly, they spewed an immense mass of bright plasma, just like volcanoes. If our planet was nearby, it would instantly be incinerated. But even despite the enormous distance, by the evening of the same day, terrestrials felt the shockwave from the sun. The northern lights lit up the sky from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. While attempting to transmit the news about this, telegraph operators, an analog of the internet at the time, received strong electrical shocks and even burns. That horrible solar storm that literally pummeled Earth's magnetic field was called the Carrington event. And that was just the beginning. In 1921, a solar storm shut down phones around the world. In 1972, a geomagnetic storm detonated U.S. Navy mines off the coast of Vietnam. In 1989, it blacked out the Canadian province of Quebec. In 2012, the Carrington event in fact got repeated, but Earth miraculously dodged the plasma ejection at the last moment. The next time a hurricane of charged particles reaches its target, our cities will instantly plunge into pitch darkness, while all the planes will fall on our heads from above. And we won't even be able to share those creepy pictures on social media, because all the working gadgets will burn out and the internet will just cease to exist. Humanity will literally be thrown back into the 19th century, and the main question is not whether it'll happen, but when it'll happen. Scientists have already realized that in addition to the 11-year cycle...
Shout outs to us for finding this information. Imagine how many people that don't care to know about any of this type of stuff just go on about their day. I'm a little bit jealous of them because they don't think about this type of stuff, but at the same time, I want to know. And to know the things that could be ahead for us, bro, it make you look at things differently, especially life.
Cycles. There are centuries-long cycles of solar minimums and maximums, but no one can say with certainty what controls them, and most importantly, where we are on the solar apocalypse chart. But those are only theories, and in practice, we know too little about the sun's internal mechanisms, not to mention the space forces that influence it from the outside. All we know now is that the 25th solar cycle began in 2019. It's entirely possible that the new Carrington event will occur around 2030, or maybe we'll have to wait for it until the 2060s. But one thing is clear, the apocalyptic solar flare will almost certainly occur in the next 150 years. However paradoxical it is, the sun can not only fry our civilization, but also do quite the opposite. After all, the sun makes Earth revolve around it, not in a perfect circle and not at a constant speed. Earth's orbit slightly elongates and shrinks about once every 100,000 years. That's the eccentricity cycle. The angle of Earth's axial tilt also oscillates reciprocally with a 41,000-year cycle. Finally, the axis itself has the precession cycle and traces out a circle every 23,000 years. And while these cycles coincide in just a certain way, an anomalously small amount of sunlight reaches Earth, starting an ice age. Just imagine a mega glacier swallowing up a city like Chicago or London and turning it into a lifeless Arctic desert for a few thousand years. Millions of people will freeze to death, and the survivors will have to be evacuated to the south.
Basically, like this storm that's sweeping our country right now. You seen all those people in Buffalo today? My heart and prayers go out to them, bro, and what they dealing with. It'll be that, but way worse.
Such an ice apocalypse caused by the sun occurs every 41,000 years. This cycle was discovered by Serbian geophysicist Milutin Milankovic 100 years ago, and therefore bears his name. However, judging by geologists' findings, ice ages are sometimes stretched out over a longer period, and the usual Milankovic cycle is extended to 100,000 years. And
scientists just did a whole video on that cycle too, bro. Insane.
Scientists still can't figure out what exactly leads to this inconsistency. Based on the current schedule, the next global glaciation will hit Earth in 10,000 years. But it looks like the ice apocalypse is delayed due to all the greenhouse gases that humanity has emitted into the atmosphere in the last couple of centuries. But is it possible that in 10,000 years, instead of an ice age, we'll face a human-made nuclear winter? 1 year ago, in one of my videos, I predicted a new stage in human history. And even though you were skeptical about that in the comments, right now, my prediction is coming true. But I'll tell you about it a bit later. The main discovery is that sometimes completely unexpected factors intervene in the cyclical course of events. And on closer inspection, it becomes clear that they're also subject to their own catastrophic clock.
And then, see, that's the thing I'll be saying, right? When people in the comments be like, oh man, this will never happen in our lifetime. All it takes is something to happen out of the norm unexpectedly to throw things off and shift us into these catastrophic events. That's all it takes. All it takes. And black holes appear anywhere. Something thrown out of the sun. One of these Milankovitch cycles, just like anything can happen out of the blue, bro. Like, so to say that to me, it just sometimes just comes off as just idiotic, bro. No, man, like we need to be on the point and aware. Shout out to Elon. Let's see what he got to say.
Life on Earth has hidden patterns which can be especially challenging for us to find and understand. In the late 18th century, a French naturalist, Georges Cuvier, stated that the elephant bones he'd found in Europe actually belonged to extinct mammoths. Back then, it became a sensation because scientists were convinced that not a single biological species had disappeared on Earth, much less some new ones had appeared. What's incredible is that Cuvier claimed that mammoths were wiped out by some terrible catastrophe. In his view, Earth was pummeled by superstorms with great floods once every few thousand years, so that all life on the planet was renewed. Other scholars disparaged Cuvier's theory as catastrophism and mocked it. British professor Charles Darwin was also among the skeptics, but he only partially disagreed with Cuvier. In his opinion, the species on Earth indeed replaced one another, but as a result of natural evolution, not catastrophes. Darwin's theory was eventually confirmed, and we now know that the average lifespan of a species varies from 5 to 10 million years. Mammoths conquered the northernmost regions of Earth 5 million years ago. They bred so much that they became one of the dominant species. But about 200,000 years ago, these giants began to give way to a new aggressive predatory species. Those predators were Neanderthals. But 40,000 years ago, they were also edged out by perhaps the most successful species in modern history. First, they exterminated Neanderthals, and 5,000 years ago, they wiped out all the mammoths. And those were, of course, smart and daring Homo sapiens. Today, we know that the first ancestors of modern humans appeared about 2 million years ago, and since we have no reasonable competitors, our species has at least half of life ahead of us. And given that we've taken over almost the entire Earth and have driven the most dangerous predators to extinction, from an evolutionary point of view, Homo sapiens can become an almost eternal species. And perhaps it would have been like that if Georges Cuvier with his catastrophism hadn't proved right. In 2021, a group of American scientists published an incredible discovery in the Geoscience Frontiers journal. As it turns out, all global extinctions on Earth in recent eras are subject to a previously unknown cycle of 27.5 million years. It looks like Earth has a pulse, and with each beat, many species disappear from its face at once. And oddest of all, the catastrophes are entirely different every time. One pulse beat corresponds to the floods due to changes in ocean levels mentioned by Cuvier. Another one causes glaciation, which makes thermophilic species freeze to death. The third one leads to a supervolcano eruption. Scientists believe that about 70,000 years ago, a powerful eruption of the Toba supervolcano pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. According to one of the theories, out of all our ancestors, literally a few thousand people survived. And that horrible, catastrophic event was not even part of Earth's mysterious pulse, which is even more destructive. Now, we have another 20 million years before the next pulse beat. It seems that there's plenty of time to get ready, But if we don't figure out what mysterious force lies behind Earth's pulse, we'll just waste our time. Now, scientists are at a loss trying to determine what mechanism can cause floods, glaciations, earthquakes, and other cyclical disasters. It looks like we need to look for something more global than continental drift, changes in Earth's orbit, and even the sun's vagaries. And in the well-known mass extinction chart, there's one event that stands out from the rest and may finally lead us to a solution. I think you've already guessed. The asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs also matches one of Earth's pulse beats. But how is that even possible? After all, our planet can't bombard itself with asteroids. Such space disasters must in theory be random and not subject to any cycles. But in our
like we were saying, exactly like we were saying,
incredibly vast and complex universe, nothing seems impossible. The most mysterious catastrophic cycle is much more large-scale than you can imagine. Since the late 70s, when geologists Walter and Louis Alvarez discovered the Chicxulub crater, formed on Earth as a result of a giant asteroid impact in the Gulf of Mexico, hundreds of scientists have been puzzling over the question, when will Earth be subjected to another apocalyptic bombardment? To unveil the cycle of killer asteroids, we need to determine the dates of all the previous impacts. But even after just a few thousand years, finding evidence of such a catastrophe can be incredibly difficult, even if it was seen by people. The ancient city of Tal el-Hammam in Jordan suddenly became deserted around 1650 BCE. Archaeologists have developed various theories, and only recently they've discovered melted stones, burnt household items, and a 1.5-meter ash layer. And since there are no volcanoes nearby, the only possible explanation is a small comet or asteroid that instantly incinerated all the inhabitants and their dwellings. In addition, this object didn't fall to the ground. It exploded above Earth's surface, leaving no crater, just like the Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013. The most visible trace of this object is recorded in the biblical story of the annihilation of Sodom and Gomorrah in the fires of hell. But a really large asteroid that could destroy all humanity would definitely leave a crater, right? Alas, erosion and other natural processes on Earth can perfectly cover the traces of even powerful impacts. After decades of research, scientists can confidently name only a dozen major space disasters over the past 2 billion years. It doesn't look like a cycle. So the best estimate astronomers can make today is one apocalyptic impact every 4 or 40 million years. That is,
you know what that screams to me? Again, this stuff can be random, bro. Everything is not tied to a cycle. And I know that we think everything is, but you know, there's a possibility that we could be wrong, right? We keep going back and changing theories about the Big Bang all the time. So for me, I live my life saying that at any given moment, something catastrophic can happen. Any given moment.
in practice, it's just impossible to predict the next one. And that's why NASA has spent 20 years and enormous resources to detect all potentially dangerous near-Earth asteroids. As of today, scientists have found more than 90% of all potentially hazardous objects between the Sun and the asteroid belt. And according to this data, we're safe for at least another century, if not a millennium. And we could just leave it at that. But all the objects found by NASA are just a drop in the vast ocean of space killers. This is the Oort cloud, located 2 light-years away from the Sun. It's a gigantic bubble of comets, almost invisible to us. And one recent discovery points to a mysterious cycle that keeps sending these killers towards Earth. In August...
You know how people talk about, like, Australia? Space is just like Australia, bro. You know what I mean? Like, how many ways it can get you up out of here? Space is like that on steroids.
2022, a team of researchers at Curtin University in Australia studied ancient tectonic plates in their country and in North America. And despite the enormous distance between them, the researchers saw the same pattern. Judging by the nature of crystalline deposits, approximately 3.5 billion years ago, a massive comet crashed into the Earth, and the impact was so strong that it punched through the Earth's crust down into the mantle, turning much of the ocean planet into a molten lava world. Scientists calculated that the speed of the killer comet had to reach 60 to 70 kilometers per second, which is 3 times faster than the speed of the dinosaur-killing asteroid. The difference between these objects is like that between a crop duster and a jetliner. Such tremendous speed is clear evidence that the comet came not from the inner solar system, but from the Oort cloud. But the strangest thing is that this terrible global catastrophe was far from unique. Having studied all the available geological layers, scientists discovered that similar lava apocalypses, with rare exceptions, occurred at intervals of about 170 to 200 million years. But no long cycle that would send killer comets to Earth so regularly exists in our solar system. However, it exists far beyond it. And this is not fiction. Right now, the solar system, along with all the planets and comets, is rushing through the Milky Way galaxy at a speed of 240 kilometers per second. And it takes us about 225 million years to make a full rotation around its center, with this supermassive black hole tens of thousands of light years away. At first glance, this is not the number we're looking for. But our galaxy consists of more than just individual stars. Its large spiral arms, full of star and gas dust clusters, revolve around the center a bit more slowly, and they make one revolution in exactly 200 million years. Scientists believe that once the solar system enters such a zone of increased galactic density, external gravitational perturbations knock some of the comets in the Oort cloud from their stable orbits and deflect them towards Earth at great speed. Scientists suggest that those powerful collisions could have split apart many supercontinents in Earth's history and accelerated their cycles. Such cataclysms in turn caused drastic climate changes with prolonged ice ages, not to mention sudden mass extinctions. Moreover, the sun's magnetic field can experience serious overloads when passing through the galaxy's dense regions, and as a result, plasma emissions can become more frequent. So, we seem to have finally found the missing link in Earth's catastrophic cycles. Australian geologists suggest that the last time we passed through the galactic arm was 66 million years ago. Does this mean we have over 130 million years until our encounter with the next killer comet? Unfortunately, the devil is in those exceptions to the comet cycle. Sometimes, the impacts occurred during periods when the solar system was supposed to be far from dangerous, dense areas. I can show you multiple breathtaking and detailed animations of the Milky Way, but in fact, astronomers aren't exactly sure how many arms it has or how they're arranged. We just can't see the half of the galaxy that's lying behind its bright core. In addition, those gravitational perturbations can also cause interstellar dark matter clusters, which are completely invisible to us. So, who knows? Maybe right now a killer comet is heading towards us from the Oort cloud. And if that's true, we'll need the entire world's nuclear arsenal to at least try to deflect it away from Earth and break the most global and deadly cosmic cycle. But that will happen.
How does that make y'all feel? To know that, and then we'll need it from everybody, meaning we all got to come together for once. Put our differences aside and pride down and come together for once to try to stop it. I think we could do it. I think we could do it. But that puts the notion in your mind that, oh, we're in this cycle, or, oh, it's 100 million years or however many years away. No, bro. This video keeps reiterating, fam, not everything sticks to the script.
only if humanity manages to tackle the destructive cycles that govern it. In that video posted a year ago, I told you about the Austrian sociologist Arno Tausch, who published an astonishing scientific paper in 2007. He noticed all the major armed conflicts from the late 15th century to present day fit into the ups and downs of the world economy, such as the Great Depression a century ago. It gives the impression that nations have their own internal clocks that signal them to start a war every now and then. The most remarkable thing is that, according to Tausch, after the Second World War, there was a prolonged decline in the cycle, which can only lead to a new peak. And this time, it should be very prominent. In just a couple of months after I expressed this idea in my video, Russia invaded Ukraine. And some experts believe this could be just a prologue to the Third World War. Now, do you believe in the secret cycles that are responsible for cataclysms on Earth? And if we manage to avoid a human-made nuclear winter, which misfortune from the rest of the catastrophic menu do you think we'll be able to repel? And which one will undoubtedly lead to a new global extinction?
I got faith in us when it comes to the asteroids. Excuse me. I got faith. I think we can steer some away from us. You know what I mean? Depending on its size and the speed of it and how much time we have to react to it if we detect it fast enough. I think we got some things that they haven't told us about that they can possibly launch into it to get it off its course. But a lot of this other stuff we're just at the mercy of. We're at the mercy of, man. You know? So another ice age, you would hope it isn't in our lifetime, but who knows, man? I'm anxious to hear what y'all think about some of these things. Y'all get at me in the comment section, man. Until next reaction, I'm gone. Peace.